Okay, so first question. That one's going to just start going down. And keep going. There you go. Okay, just make it go all the way. Yeah, stand here and hold it for me. So we're going to start with an easy one, but not an easy one. One that's going to hopefully, well, for some of you, it's a nice little gut punch too. But first question that I have here, what can I do to make steps toward getting out of video game addiction? It's easy. Stop it. Next question. Just kidding. How do we deal with video games? To me, video games are not bad, but it's what we do with them with our time. They've actually done studies and shown that especially teenage boys at the ages of 13 and 27, 28, the amount of time they play video games, they could have been a master at almost anything. Cello, any kind of art, any kind of sculptor, all these amazing things of time that was literally killed. And so it's one of the biggest things I believe it is actually replacing it with something that you love to do. So you love to play video games. I'm not anti-video games. Our house, we actually have a Xbox room. So we have Xboxes, plural, set up. I like my kids playing, but it's funny, even my oldest son realized that his gut was hurting every time he played. I have Crohn's, and if he's not careful, going to have problems with his gut in terms of how it hurts him, and so he just quit. But what also helped was a job. So when it comes to what do I do, as an adult, it's a different story too. Because it's not a bad thing to kill time unless you're neglecting other things. And so that's where it becomes really relevant. I met this morning with a teenager that it just broke my heart. It was a kid who attempted suicide recently and literally has no hope. Nothing. Wants nothing to do with mom and dad's faith and wants nothing to do with anything. And then the classic question, do you like school? Well, if there's anyone here that likes it, you're weird, like my daughter. But I was like, no one likes school. And he goes to normal, like I call them penitentiaries, but the normal school. And of course he doesn't like school, but what's worse is oftentimes relationships there. And then when there's struggles at home, that makes it worse. And so having a purpose is so critical. Having a direction. And even at 12, 13, 14, no, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, but it's like having a place that I'm heading towards, at least for now. For me, it was music. I wanted to be in music ministry. And so having that, even though that's not where I ended up, I can see that I honestly wouldn't have heard anything else if God had even tried to get my attention, because I was so focused on that. It took going to college, majoring in it, and them finally sitting me down and say, you can't graduate because you have to have talent. So there was a door closed in my face. I cried, they cried, it was some moments. But I'm thankful for those professors, small Christian school, kind of like Corbin, this is in Arkansas, that they loved me enough to actually tell me ahead of time, not let me get to the end and, sorry kid, crash and burn. Because then it opened up a door where I had one elective and I took a counseling class. And everything changed for me. So I don't know the trajectory, but to me, video games, the relationships you have with video games is actually a critical one. Where it can be too much. It's scarier when it's now I'm neglecting friends. Now I'm choosing this over, so someone's, hey, come over, and you're like, no, I'm good. Because especially nowadays playing online, it's a pseudo dopamine hit of connection that's not really connection. It is, it feels like it, but it does not have the same effect on my heart, on my body, on my health, on my well-being. And so we'll talk about that more in a little bit, the dopamine stuff. But that's an important one. What do I do after my father died because I have unresolved issues and now I can never talk to him about it? This is one of those very, very difficult ones. Because no, you can't with him, but that's actually the beauty of the body of Christ. The beauty of a group like this. It's finding people to talk through, because there's some things you might need to actually vent about, get angry about, feel about. That's actually part of the grief process. So being able to actually find someone you can talk to. One of the techniques that counselors do is the empty chair. It seems really cheesy and dumb till you watch it happen and know he's not here, but you put an empty chair and you actually speak to that chair. Or sometimes what a counselor will do is they'll sit in that chair. So you're speaking to the counselor as if they're dad. And yeah, there's some stuff that needs to get felt. I need permission to feel. Mad, angry, sad, cry. It's also where we then need, again, the body of Christ, to put my arms around them or them around me, because that's actually such a critical part of, again, why I think the body of Christ is so important. Because one of the things that's going to happen as we all grow, and many of you get married and families. I love my wife and I love my family, but when I go to heaven, wife and family that's not the same relationships. But the church is. The church, the body of Christ, is what goes with us. It's a beautiful thing. So grab on to those people around you. Find those people that you can trust and actually process some of that. And again, there's something about it. In my unconscious, my non-conscious is what Carolyn Leaf calls it, is where all my thoughts are rooting around. She says like 99% of what we think is back there. And back here, it's like all this disconnected mess, if you will, and part of our job is to move it to my conscience, where I can think, where I can engage my prefrontal cortex, where I can put it through a filter of true or false. Did he love me? True or false? Lord, do you love me? True or false? I need to put everything through that filter, and that's part of taking every thought captive. But there's a third level, and it's confession, or it's speaking. Part of what happens with a counselor, or happens with a best friend, or happens with a friend of a parent, or a friend's parent, or someone that you decide to trust. And that's so critical. We'll come back to that one too in a minute. Of make sure you find people you trust. You don't share everything with everybody, and that's going to be really important. Again, stuff coming up in a minute. But so I hope that's an encouragement to you. But yeah, another one. My friend said she would kill themselves because they are mad at me. What should I do? This is critical. If another person does that, it is not your fault. Period. But what happens so often is people get blackmailed. If you tell anyone, if you share this, if you don't keep my secret, if you don't do this, you don't perform this act. I mean, there was even a young girl here in Salem a few years ago that years later they found out that she was being held at gunpoint by her boyfriend to, you can guess what, sexual stuff. And no one knew. No one at all knew what was going on with this young lady. Like, we don't do that. So if someone says suicide, we go tell everyone that person knows. I know that sounds weird, but that's not a game you play. You do not play that game. So you go tell teachers, you go tell friends, you tell their parents, you tell your parents, you tell everyone, because they need to also understand we don't play that card. That is an absolute no. So even if I know you're joking, or even if I know you're playing around, you follow through with that. Because it's not yours to control or to stop them. And I know young women who've walked down the aisle to marry someone under duress, if you will. Under, basically, if I break up with him, he'll kill himself. No. No. We don't use that. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's a hard one. This person said, what do I do if I had bad therapy in the past and have damage from it? Find a better therapist. That's hard because you stop trusting people. If you find a counselor, you find a pastor, actually any adult for that matter, and you have a few bad relationships or things that hurt you, you don't trust other people. So don't judge others based off that one. One of the things that I tell my clients even, especially marriage, I'm like, don't come see me and say that you tried counseling. Like just because we met once or twice. You got to click with me. We got to actually work together as a team or find someone else. Because bad therapy is easy to find actually. People that actually either are not trained, they're outside of their training, or they are trying to just tell you what they think you want to hear versus, and to me honestly, the foundation, what does the Bible say? What does Scripture say? But the meeting I had this morning, this young man is rejecting faith. So I was very careful. I'm coming from a biblical worldview with everything I'm saying, but I'm not telling him chapter, verse, anything. My direction is still the same, but we're not playing, like saying anything about that. And I was very careful, per his mom, to be careful about how I went down that road. And so we need people in our lives. Then again, this is where every single adult here, could probably find better things to do tonight. And the fact they're here is because they love you. They're committed to you, and beyond just their own kids. I'm at the end of 13 years with Boy Scouts, something I never thought I would do. And it's weird to see my second son about to be done too, and I'm going to continue. I love it. I love these boys. I love the dads. We're only dads only. No moms allowed. It's great. And I love it. I love working with these families. And so I'm going to continue, and it's this weird kind of like, wow, I am. I'm going to continue. Why? It's the mentoring of these young men, but it's also relationships with me. These parents become friends as well. Here's a hard one too. How do women be feminine and how do men be masculine? How do you define that? Like, what is masculine? What is feminine? Because that's actually part of the problem that's led to, and I know this is hard to wrap our minds around, but when you were born, the doctor really didn't know what they were doing, so they guessed as to whether you were a boy or a girl. It's called the sex assigned at birth, because we've gone off our rocker. Crazy. And we don't know what's masculine and feminine. And the fact is actually, if I say the word cooking, what is the first, male or female, do you think of first? Female. And who are the famous cooks? Most of them are men. If I say artist, we tend to think of art, oh, that's girly stuff. No, it's not. The artists, some of the most famous artists, they all kill themselves, but the most famous artists are all men. Like, it's interesting to think about, we've made the categories. There's differences also between effeminate, like a guy who's more effeminate, and we've now got categories for that because we just kind of push them to trans now, which is not okay. But what's the name for a girl who's a little more masculine? Tomboy. And it's even the wrong way to say it, a little more masculine. Wow, a girl that likes to do things that's rough and tumble, wonderful. And it's funny as she has a place in this world. And may she find a man that actually fits with her in terms of who he is and how he's wired. We joke in our marriage that I'm the girl and she's the guy. She's from the legal field. Like, the way her brain thinks is just weird to me. And I'm the emotional spaghetti mess. And what's so cool is when we met, it's like my life started making sense. Because I'm so the guy and she's so the girl, and God is so good. And so sometimes relationships are what reveal kind of what this is. And this question with what I just said, how do we support tomboy females and culturally feminine guys? Culture says that they may be in the wrong body. We know that's not true at all, in any way, shape, or form. It has never happened this side of Adam and Eve. Don't know what happened before that. How can we be supportive and not mocking of everyone's personal range of emotions and interests and abilities? And that's what we end up doing. There's a question at the kind of the end here that comes up as well about the way we make jokes. There's no room for gay jokes anymore. Sorry. We don't talk that way anymore. When I was younger, that was normal. And even that I had a problem with then, didn't know why. We don't talk that way because it's such a real thing for so many. And we often don't know what the friend next to me is struggling with. That in a group of any size, someone that's struggling with same-sex attraction is actually normal. What does that mean? It's a struggle with, and my attractions don't define me. So what do I do with that? Hopefully I submit that to you, Lord, and I actually help him define who I am. That's what we need. And we need to, again, put people around us to help us do that. Or, this is the scary, or you're literally just guided by whatever you feel. Which I've met me. That would not lead well to anything good. It would make every marriage fail immediately. Parents would be done with you so fast it's not even funny. Like, we are so selfish, all of us. And so my feelings are not good data. My attractions are also kind of not good data. They're important, but they don't define me. And so, again, it's back to that masculine and feminine. Or even this question, how can we embrace our differences that culture may mock and say doesn't fit our gender? Because some of us are very artistic. And I'm in the wrong, I'm artistic and I'm what? Boy or girl? We're okay with one, but we're often not okay with the other. If I'm artistic and I'm a Which one's the harder one to fit? Boy. It's interesting to think about that. That should not be the case. Because we actually need to embrace that young man and help mentor him into the kind of man that's going to actually hopefully be a leader, especially with music or with whatever else. Same for that young lady who actually has got a wiring that has the insanity to want to be in the military or be a police officer. I don't even want to do that. I'm like, she's more of a man than I am. But what does that mean? Wiring, gifting, calling. Because thank you for the people that run into the buildings that are firefighters. Because no. And that one tends to be much less female. And a lot of it's because of the physical strength that's needed, which is it's interesting to watch. There's a lot of different even fields that we tend to gravitate towards more because we're male or female. And that's where, again, that masculine and feminine. Now, you personally, this is a journey of trying to figure out who you are. What does that look like in this world? Where do I fit into this world? Where do I, in my body, fit in this world? As a young man, for me, everything I showed you last week, the pictures of like purple, pink and purple, everything. My motorcycle became this identity piece. At least I'm kind of a guy because I like Harleys and I like bikes. And it's become actually because the other piece of that story is when we were dating and then first married, I was walking with a cane and doctors were saying I would never work. And I had a handicap sticker and it was like, every time I'm on that bike, I'm not in a wheelchair. There's this sense of freedom and of, like, I love the cold, brisk mornings, and I don't ride it much in the summer, but I love the cold. There's just something about I'm alive, I'm awake. I'm not in a wheelchair. And so finding your place, what livens you with limits, because there are some people, maybe some of your friends or even family, that may never leave a bed. They're bedridden for life, okay? God's got a calling for them too, a place for them too. Are they less masculine or less feminine? No. But we, if we're not careful, we're very, very good at judging people, because the truth is if I ask you any subject, I bet every one of us has an opinion on it, even if you've never thought of the subject before. So being careful with that's really important. Because I would love to have a conversation with you about even, so what is being a woman? What is being a man? What does it mean to you? Because that's a fun conversation. I had to really work that out. I went into a primarily female-dominant industry, shrink, being a counselor. And then that's where I started, but then as a professor, then it swung the other way, and I didn't really fit there. That's how I felt at first, and then found Corbin, and that's been amazing. But finding where you fit is really, really important. So that's, to me, what defines masculine and feminine, not your friends, your family. This is hard when we're dealing with mom and dad sometimes because they have a preconceived notion of, well, you're my son, you should play football. You're my daughter, we have these expectations, and the sad thing is we don't always live up to those. And that's important to kind of unpack, sometimes with them if they'll let you, but a lot of times it's with other people that you trust to talk through that. And that's actually, again, the point of this group. What do I do if my three best friends have absent fathers or LGBTQ, hate their lives, and have attempted suicide? Pray a lot for them. Number one, pray. Because they need your prayers. They need intervention. What I would hope that would happen with those three friends is that if you have a dad that they could get to know, that's a critical connection. That your dad or your granddad or someone in your life actually is able to be someone in their life that helps influence them. That's a critical one. When we did Cub Scouts, that's what I loved. I had a lot of single moms that would go, thank you for your son, you're not invited. And the moms would go, thank you. I loved mentoring these young men because they didn't have that. And so having people to talk to, attempted suicide, again, that's one of those that we don't play around with. And so if there's secrets, we don't keep those kind of secrets. We deal with those out in the open Maybe not announcing it to everyone, but we actually really need to talk through. I think what breaks my heart the most for young people is the amount of weight sometimes you're carrying because you've got the secret from a friend that you should not be carrying. You should not be carrying that secret. So even if it's another friend, at least start there and unburden that. But get to an adult, get to someone, and it matters who. But get to someone you can trust to talk through that. What do I do if a Christian friend is struggling with same-sex attraction? How do I show them love, but also point them to Jesus and biblical values? And what if it's not a non-Christian friend? I could spend hours looking at just the same-sex attraction piece. We're in a world that's the wild, wild west with some of that. It's so different for most adults, especially 25% plus of young Gen Z and Gen Alpha identify as LGBTQ now. That's not okay. There's something wrong here. As we're searching for who I am, because that's actually normal. We're searching for who I am. I don't know who I am. Yeah, welcome to every one of us older folks at some point in time. For many, it wasn't even a struggle because I either was too busy or life was hard, because that's actually where things started changing. If you think of history, was the Industrial Revolution. All of history before that, we were trying to struggle to stay alive. And when we all of a sudden got abundance, America, all these things have started becoming an issue that they were there, they were not as big of an issue. We've given too much space for some of this. If I could wish one thing for every one of you young people, it would be to get a job. Honestly. Now that job might be your sport or practicing an instrument because you're in band or an orchestra. Like that's a job. I tell my college students that are at Corbin, their first job is a student, number one. But second, if you're an athlete, that's a second job. And if you have another job, you're crazy. You have a third job. But be able to work, whether it's volunteering at church, a few times a week, whether it's helping someone next door to you or mowing lawns or doing something that makes money or something that doesn't. There's something beautiful that comes from work, something that we're created to do. And it distracts me from some of my stuff. I have 5 jobs right now. I love it. Because one of my nemesis is depression. Depression sinks in if I slow down too much. And so if I keep the right pace, and it's a very delicate balance because of my other health issues, but I'm good. Because when depression sinks in, I can't think straight, I can't see straight, I don't know what to do. My wife knows if she walks in the room and I'm just sitting there, that I'm not okay, and she actually knows what to do, and in 20 minutes I'm a different person. But that's from years of her not knowing what to do. That's where relationships are critical. One of the most amazing groups I've ever seen of friends was when I was in seminary. There was this group of 6 guys, and they lived in a house together. And they had a rule. First of all, no girls anywhere outside of the living room and kitchen in the house. And then whenever the next to last guy was about to leave the house, and let's say one of their friends was sitting on the couch with a girl, it was tap, 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 out. Why? I love you. Because I love you, boundary. I'm not going to let you stay alone here. I was always so jealous of those guys because they had guys that loved them. Like that's the kind of people we need in our life, right? Not the one that's like, oh, there's a tie on the door. I guess let's not go in there. And kind of there's stuff going on behind the clothes. No, that's not a friend. I guarantee that's not a real friend. The person that covers for you is not a real friend. And I want someone who's going to fight. I can't remember, I shared it last week. Like my wife and I, we were dating. Her roommate came home, and my car and her car were sitting in front of the house. She pulls up to the house at 6 a.m., and there's both of our cars, and she was furious. And she came storming in the house and starts banging on the door. Where's Corey? Kelly opens the door. She's like, I just got home. He's in the ER. Oh, that was a good friend. That's what we need in our life. People that actually call us out and say, no, because I love you. That's the key phrase, because I love you. It's not comfortable because I love you. Comfortable is the American theology of you do you. Whatever makes you happy. Gross. So gross. Yeah. How should I show them love? I think it's how we live. I'm looking for places where I can plant seeds. Where can I usually plant seeds with my friends? When their life falls apart. And I'm waiting for that. I'm looking for that. It's going to happen for all of us at different points in time. When something's hard, there's mom and dad are fighting at home, and now I don't know what to do, and we get to talk. Some crisis happens, we get to talk. We're looking for those moments to plant seeds, to love on them, but to encourage them towards the gospel, yes. Overtly, hopefully, but also even just covertly. Non-Christian friend, what do they need too? They need you to love them. But they also need you to point them somewhere. And it's the same direction, by the way. It's not, oh, you're a non-Christian, have fun. I don't get to have fun, I'm a Christian. But go have fun. That's kind of the way we act sometimes. Christians don't have any fun. All the non-Christians have all this fun. Ugh. I hope you don't believe that. But I know I believed it when I was younger because it's what it looked like around me. There's all these boundaries and rules for Christians. Ugh. Thank you, Lord, for those boundaries. The stuff I don't have to deal with. I know couples who pass STDs back and forth to each other their whole marriage. Sexually transmitted diseases because of their actions when they were younger. To not have to deal with that. I have people that wonder if they have a child out there. Guys that do. Obviously the girl would know. But anyway. And that's a terrible way to live. Very much. How to talk about someone who's struggling with homosexuality or sexual identity. What if my child is struggling with it? These are a lot of really important questions. How do I love them towards what? Christ. How do I move them towards Christ? Part of it's going to be studying some of this, learning more about this, about homosexuality. What is same-sex attraction? Again, attraction. I'd say careful. It's not necessarily the best data to use as my identity. So we want to really be careful with that. But yes, you and I have a attraction towards all sorts of different, different color skin, different, about everything in terms of guys and girls. Wonderful. It's not the best data to go by. I grew up believing I would marry some dark-skinned Chilena, where I grew up, someone from South America, and I marry the whitest person I can find. And it's like, okay, Lord, you are hilarious, because, okay, that's amazing. It's neat. Wouldn't trade her for anything, but yet that's, back then I wouldn't have known that, because you just used that word attraction. That's my identity if you're not careful. I'm going to take a step further with that. The LGBTQIA plus community, and there's lots of more letters added. 2S for Two-Spirit is in there now, and we need to add M. They don't want to add M, but that's next. It's called MAPS, which stands for what?
Minor attracted persons.
Minor attracted persons. That's the more politically correct versus pedophile, because they're a protected class, and that's going to become more of the conversation. If it has been for a while, it's going to keep being pushed into the mainstream. Polyamory is more normal. That means 3 or more people in a throuple or more who are in relationship. Not all with each other, but mixtures of like a husband and a wife and she has a girlfriend kind of thing. And all these weird, why? Because we're trying to take what God did and twist it. And Satan's just laughing his head off. The LGBTQIA community is a cult. And in cults, there's one way in and there's no way out. If you go to YouTube, and yes, I actually don't think this is a bad thing to do, and Google detransitioners from the trans movement, they will tell their story, and hopefully you'll cry a lot, actually. The hurt, it's heartbreaking what they're going through. Because literally, in order to leave that, I had to lose all my friends. So again, you're accepted as long as you stick with the rules and stick with the rhetoric, but if you leave, you're dead to me. That is not a place I want anyone to be. That's not healthy. Rosaria Butterfield, when she left her partner, female partner, when she came to Christ, she said a year later, when her and her friends had left, a year later though, all of her friends had gone back to that community, and she was the only one left. She said part of the reason why was because the truth is, the LGBTQ community is often some of the most loving people, the most caring people, the most open people. If you have a crisis at 3 a.m., here, come, warm meal, here's a bed. And I actually sometimes believe the church has office hours if we're not careful. We find that. So that's what she found. She's like, the church is like, I can have a crisis, 8 to 5, and that's it? And she saw it firsthand. What's so cool is she's now married and has multiple kids, and she homeschools her kids, and she's a pastor's wife. But she'll say, don't you dare put me on a pedestal as someone who's fixed. She goes, I'm still same-sex attracted. My attraction is still to women, and I die to that every day. Because I believe Jesus is more important for me to worship, and it's led me to a husband I never thought would ever exist, and to kids that would not exist, and I wouldn't trade my life for anything. That's redemption versus now I'm straight. And sometimes we actually think that way, or think that's what's supposed to happen. Any questions so far from that?
So I have a question. So in that kind of a situation where the same-sex attraction continues lifelong, is that because that got started when the person was young? I mean, why does that happen?
So they have spent billions and billions of dollars to try to prove that this is from birth, you're born this way. Lady Gaga thinks, they were born this way. It's billions of dollars. About 4 or 5 years ago, so 2015 is when gay marriage was voted in. A few years later, APA quietly changed their definition of homosexuality to does have a biological to may, because there is absolutely no proof. So why are people? I don't know. Is it a social contagion in some ways? Possibly. Is it because we've given it as an option? Or is it because this guy's a little more girly and this girl's a little more? I don't know. But we also feed whatever we want to keep. So if you're looking at porn and want to quit, good luck. Because you're going to keep looking at porn. You're feeding the problem. I want to stay married, but I'm having an affair. Keep having the affair. It's funny how my spouse looks less and less appealing because of I'm not dying to. And so to me, I come to that attraction word and go, I don't honestly care what you're attracted to or who you're attracted to. Careful with that. Lord, who do you want me to be? Men, critical. I believe that we need men to step up. At Corbin for years, I've actually looked at the young men going, are there any that are going to step up? These guys are wusses. Come on, dudes. Who are you? Come on. And in my classes, they just hide. They're quiet. The last 2 or 3 years has been amazing to see young men who have a brain and actually are ready to lead in a Corbin where it's a place full of majority female. And the irony is I talk to some of the girls and a lot of them are like, I'm here, but I really just want to be a mom. And I go, why did you say just want to? Because we've taught your value is in your money, what you can produce. It's sad. Like, you just want to know. You actually have a heart to be to that part of your role in this life that actually only you can give. This is beautiful.
Do you think we all have different sins that we're attracted to? Some of us are really attracted to drugs or alcohol that can kind of remove us from our situation, or others are attracted to, beautiful people. My dad was attracted to younger and younger women, so he was continually divorcing and remarrying, divorcing and remarrying, 7, 8 different times, and other people do that, and I mean, people have different. Or they chase alcohol for escapist type things, or if you give in to what you're attracted to, then that becomes their sin. And some sins you can keep hidden, and some sins are really obvious and you can't keep hidden, and some sins society will let you embrace and celebrate
Yep.
and make them legal. You know, it's really, today, there aren't very many sins that are labeled sin anymore.
Yeah. One of the things, I teach a psych of addiction class, one of the things that I remind my students pretty much every week, I don't look at a person who's addicted to anything, alcohol, pornography, meth, heroin, anything, name any of them, and ask why they are. Because they work. They do their job. They numb me, they help me escape, and they give me a little bit of pleasure at least. I asked, why don't you? The truth is a lot of these things, once I get a taste of it, why would I stop? The fact is, some of these things, like heroin's one of those, one use, you're done. It's you're it, or it's yours, or you're its, how you say that. It's kind of scary. And so, whatever that might be, whether it's younger and younger women, or whether it's that drug of choice, lust. What is lust? It's desire, which God made you to do. That's not wrong. Gone mad. It's me doing what God created me to do, but it's gone off the rails. And so being able to unpack that for myself, because a lot of times what I do with trauma work is how people go, I feel like I'm crazy. And it's like, I want to help you see you're not. That your life makes sense when you understand some of what happened to you and why now you're reacting this way or doing this or shutting down here. And for a lot of people, it's like, wow, my life makes so much more sense now. There's this unburdening. And what's funny is they haven't even shared about the trauma yet. I have found that we don't even need to go into all those reliving the experiences to actually completely change my life. But the drugs work, whatever that might be, affairs, whatever it is, the drug works. I would hope for you young guys, gals, to never touch alcohol and never touch a drug. Because the sad thing is once you do, it's now on the table. It's an option. Do you ever recover from these? Honestly, I'd say no. That once you have that taste, it works. Marijuana works. I live with chronic pain that comes and goes. I would love to be a drug addict or an alcoholic. It would be amazing, and I would do it really well. Which means I don't touch that stuff. Because it terrifies me. Because I think I would go all the way. It's like I can't. Don't think there's a spot in Scripture that tells me where I can actually escape. And I'm supposed to lean into. And for some people it means leaning into a life full of pain. Emotional and or physical. So how do we do that? How do we help our friends do that? Some of these questions. Because most of those that are so focused on escaping or my attractions or anything like that, there's a story there. So that question earlier, like where does this kind of come from in a sense? I think a lot of times it is trained. I've seen so many young people nowadays who it seemed like nothing was going on and all of a sudden overnight they're gay, they're lesbian, they're bi, or they're trans. And it's like, no. 100% no. What happened? Well, I actually asked this guy out over and over and he said no and I feel rejected and so now therefore we were dating and we were messing around and I tried sex and that was really stupid and so no. The list is long as to why. The scary ones are when there's actual assault, when there's abuse. That now I don't know who to trust and I don't even trust myself. Why do I not trust myself? Well, there's a problem in abuse. This could get into a long rabbit hole, but no matter what age I am, when there is sexual abuse, there's two things. Something is wrong and my body betrayed me. As in it also something felt maybe good and that can't be. So I've got to kill desire, I've got to kill everything in me. And I take this out on everyone. And actually we take shame. I get clothed with shame and I cover this with hate. Hate myself or I hate you or both. And Satan has a heyday. What do I want? I want all that unburdened, taken off. Because that shame isn't yours to carry, it's the person that did the harm. And so how do we help our friends again. Part of one of the classes I teach at Corbin is a trauma therapy class. My first, 12, 13 years of teaching that class, I had people actively trying to get the class canceled because it would send students into all nooks and crannies of the school seeking help. And I'm like, yes, I want them to get help here before they go into ministry, before they go here. And they didn't like that. And I love it because I'm training them, yes, to help others, but they start realizing it's for you to grow and you to deal with your stuff too. And I know certain classes where I'm going to lose half the class because of something I say. I know now, it's been 15 years I've been teaching it, which ones are going to be the ones where just people check out because it really hits their heart. And then they kind of come back the next class and we keep going. But as they get to the whole of it, it's like, oh, wow, now I see. My eyes are open and there's hope for a future. It's like, yes, that's what I want. Because now I can lean into a calling, into my gifting, into a future that I actually thought was dead because of fill in the blank. Honestly, to me, my goal is I'm going to do everything I can till I die to fight anything and everything that Satan's doing in this world. And this, of all areas, this is the one I get to deal with the most. Thus the questions around this that's come up. This is the one. Get some graphs here. So explain the research on girls and guys' mental health and the difference between the two. So here's one on mental illness lately. So this is it's in the book from Jonathan Haidt on, the anxious generation. And so one of the things he's found in his research is we've thought COVID is actually the cause of this huge spike in anxiety, depression, and it's actually 2012 when all this started. You remember, I think I mentioned it last week, 2012, what was it?
Instagram.
Yeah, when Instagram was bought by Facebook and it exploded. We got a problem here. And if you actually look, it's a little further back to 2010 where kind of the spike starts. Not these other things. Why those? That's an important question. Anxiety is another one. And look at the ages here. So not in the older 50s, a little bit here, a lot more there, and then 18 to 25, skyrocketing. It's harder to get data on children because of the limits of research, but suicides. Girls try it more often. Boys tend to pick more lethal means the first time. So girls, these numbers are way higher for the girl, but it wasn't successful oftentimes. The fact is holy smokes, we are in trouble. Why are we hurting so much? Why are we trying to escape so much? And again, I go back to, it's funny when we had to get up in the morning and you had 27 chores to do before school and you get home and then there's the other 100 that have to get done and then it's crash and you do it again. Life got easy. So the answer to that is move to a farm, I think. But these are scary.
Living up in the woods helps too. Living up in the woods helps too.
Yep, living up the woods. Oh, yes, love that. If I had my choice, I'd live way up past Detroit, up in the middle of nowhere, but then it's hard to serve people that way. So, and my wife's a city girl.
Is there a known reason for the drop in 2019 in the boys' suicide rate, or is it just?
I'm not sure. I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out if it's lack of data, if it's like what was that little dip there. I don't know. Lots happened in the last, 8 years. I guess it's longer than that. 13 years. Yeah. As in, how old are most of you? A lot's happened in your lifetime. The world that you see in the last 12 to 18 years, it's a very, very, very self-centered, self-serving world. And it's like, is it really? Some people are. There are a lot of amazing people in this world. Again, the people here, I don't understand. Why are they here tonight on a Thursday night every week? It's because they love you. And anything else you're doing, because they hopefully love who they're serving. You know the teachers around you and whether it's at church or anywhere else, that care for you, that love you. But this is very real in terms of what's going on in terms of our friends. If this is you, again, this is one of those where we need to be able to say, hey, I'm not okay. Now, here's a really rough one to me. This is a suggestion only, to parents especially. My oldest, I've done this. My middle guy, who's about to turn 17, I feel like it's late to do this, but I'm going to do this soon. He's a little more sensitive, so we haven't. Alex and I, a few years ago, we sat down and we watched the first season of 13 Reasons Why. If you heard of that show, it's a rough show. It's a terribly rough show. A lot of language. Episode 12 is a rough one, but it's 13 cassette tapes that this girl leaves behind to her friends after she's committed suicide. So she's dead, and she's telling the story as to why, to these 13 people that knew a piece of the story. And there's one person that actually could have prevented it, really, and it was the school counselor who did not do their job. You can see it in the film. It's incredible, actually, well done. So episode 12, there's a very graphic rape scene that they only show from here up, but that's what tipped her over to finally go, I'm done with this world. It's heartbreaking. Why is this important? Most people who commit suicide, it's only after that you're like, oh, if I'd known that, if we had gotten together, these 13 people, it's like, wow, maybe it could have been prevented. It's kind of like with drowning. We think of drowning, someone splashing. What's drowning? When all of a sudden it's silent. Where's Joey? Gone, under. You don't hear a thing. It's dead silent. So suicide's one that we need to pay attention to. We need to kind of check in on. I feel like we're afraid of it. And we need to not be afraid of it. We need to actually confront it head on, as I said earlier. Someone said this, asked this, I'd like to hear more on the dopamine issue with kids' brains, all of our brains, and what things trigger it and what negative impact it has on their decision-making, attention, and future life. What can trigger that hit? What are the negative effects? And how can I break free of that? How is my brain wired? So let me show you a few things about two pieces of the bigger puzzle, dopamine and serotonin. So what is dopamine? Dopamine modulates the responsiveness of cells. So I love this idea of the word here, the landscape. A landscape, so think of a landscape that is high in dopamine, it makes more connections. So I'm looking for things to increase my dopamine, and I can think better, I can think more clearly. High levels of dopamine are reflected in sharper thinking and focused behavior. So we want some of that. But then serotonin is like acting as a force on the other side. We're going to see that in a second. Substances that raise dopamine levels, like amphetamines, exhibit improved concentration and dramatic reduction in errors. So we're looking for substances, we're looking for experiences even that actually find that right sweet spot with dopamine. That's kind of how how you and I are all wired, if you will. It makes the sensing of things we need to know more clear. So what's scary is how these little dopamine hits that you get with your phone, we think we're getting there, but we're not. It's like a trick because it's not real connection with people. Now so serotonin, the force, so dopamine high or low, serotonin high and low. It's the other direction for serotonin. So if dopamine facilitates information flow, the modulatory action of serotonin is to constrain it. So serotonin is trying to rein things in where I can focus. Like I can't take lots of noise if I'm in more of a sensitive space, if you will. And I can constrain that by my levels of serotonin. So high serotonin, what does it do? It makes memory retrieval difficult. So I want to increase my dopamine, but I want to lower my serotonin, and I want to find that sweet spot for me to retain information or focus on you speaking, all these kinds of things that we are doing every day. If we need to increase an object's importance, dopamine rises. We kind of, again, focus. If we want it to diminish its importance, serotonin needs to be increased. So these are just two of many, many, many other pieces of the puzzle in our brain working together. So then think of that word landscape I said a minute ago. The idea of you each have a different levels and different landscape of that. So whether you have high dopamine or low dopamine, here's kind of what I want us to look at. A chronically stressful environment can actually do either. It can either raise or lower. So it can actually have a different effect for different people. Raise it or lower it. But it will always lower serotonin. So it's messing with your brain, your environment. Actually, every thought you have is messing with your environment or messing with your hormone levels and your neurotransmitter levels and all this kind of stuff. And then you take a medication, if you have depression, and it's a SSRI, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It's meant to mess with this. It's not really doing anything else other than messing with how these connections can be made or not made. And so they're a miracle for some people. When I was put on antidepressants in college in the summer, I came to school the next semester, and my friends were like, "You're so different. You're nice and you're happy." And I'm like, "Drugs, man!" Yes. But then I met a girl and realized I don't feel anything, and this is weird. And then we broke up, and so then I got off of it the worst time ever because I didn't like the way I felt with the drug. Because drugs are great, but they have a million side effects. So when do drugs work? When the side effects are less of a big deal because the help side is bigger, higher, greater, which is what we want. So in this picture here, in both cases, the nucleus accumbens is sensitized. So this is what acts, this part of our brain is what acts, and then this is the craving brain part. So the craving for pornography, the craving for a drug, the craving for connection, the craving to be known, whatever that might be, chocolate, ice cream, pizza, whatever it is, can be on a low dopamine or a high dopamine state. And it's reflected in the behavior, how we relate to what we get, how we get it. It's kind of like the idea of I gotta have it. How strong is the I gotta have it? It's based off this landscape of these chemicals that you honestly, yes, you have a lot of control over, but it's almost like we're not as aware of that there's certain foods that affect it, positive and negative. There's certain emotions that affect it, positive and negative. Then so-and-so walks in the room and it's like, oh, depression sets in. Or so-and-so walks in the room and all of a sudden you're like, yay. Some of you, when you see babies, like when I see babies, I'm like, yay, babies. And my wife's like, I'll kill you. Like we all react different to different stimuli, if you will, which is interesting to think about. A low dopamine and low serotonin landscape has a harder time learning. So I'm in school or I'm trying to concentrate and I can't concentrate. I can't focus. I tell my students all the time, some of you sit at a computer for 6 hours trying to spit out a 20-minute project when you probably should go to the movies, go for a hike, go bowling, go do something, and you sit down and you're in a different state and you knock it out in 30 minutes. And some of you need to say bye to all your friends and I'll see you at finals after the finals are over because you play too much. We all need to hear different messages because we're all very different. Some of you actually need dead silence to focus. And I need like heavy metal music or something to focus. We're all wired different.
Is that why when you're fasting, like for 5 days just on water, you can write or do anything or study the Bible? And I mean, I've knocked out writing curriculums that I could never have done on my own with my Bible open, my Hebrew Bible, my Greek Bible, and done stuff that could never have come out of my brain that God has done for me in 5 days, only because I was fasting. Is the science of that dopamine?
Yes. Well, no, it's way, way bigger than that. It's way past this even. I thought fasting was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard on this earth. Why would you not eat? Why would God even have that in there? It's kind of dumb. And it's so fun to see science back up Scripture. That it's so interesting what the body does after a certain point, 2 or 3 days, and I do recommend it actually about once a month. You enter that 3rd or 4th day, your body starts eating itself, basically. It's a great weight loss tool. And so careful with that, it can be misused, eating disorders, anyway. And you're able to concentrate and work. My day 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10, and I'm usually doing this for medical reasons, like because my gut's messed up and I'm in a Crohn's flare-up. All of a sudden, day 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I am functioning at a higher level than I ever thought possible. It's so weird. Can I concentrate more? Am I clear?
Yeah.
Some, yes, not everyone. Because there's a lot of other health issues or health pieces that can actually make this harder. But yes, it's incredible to think about the way our brains are so incredibly designed. Most of what we're doing is actually distracting it. That's what our earbuds in the ears are for. Honestly, it says, don't talk to me. You're less important than me. Can't stand earbuds. To me, don't wear them in public. Wear them when you're by yourself, or headphones. We're trying to escape. Sometimes you're trying to escape your own presence. That's part of what that is. So be careful with that. Be present. Be with people. So the next piece here, setting and keeping long-term goals that require delayed gratification is extremely difficult here. And then the landscape ignites impulsive behavior, awakens the need to herd, and can produce depression. These are the things that's happening when there's that low dopamine, low serotonin. I need the right balance. And it's so weird, again, the different foods you eat can change that quickly. Avocados and blueberries and different things like that are actually not the stuff that you get at the convenience store. A high dopamine, low serotonin state tends to be brighter, more vigilant, aggressive, and can juggle many things at the same time. So for some of us, that's what we're looking for all the time. I want to be in that sweet spot. So I take a little bit of Adderall just for fun, not because it's prescribed. It works till you realize it's a stimulant that you now need more and more and more. Because any of this can be turned into a problem. These different tools are good. Your phone, these things are good till they're not. This person might behave impulsively, have extramarital affairs, tend to carry about 30 extra pounds, and exhibit false confidence. Go, 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 go. But those two brains kind of that I described, there's a million in between. We're all different. It's not just one or the other. And so how we unpack, what is my struggle? How am I wired, God? How do I better understand me? That's, to me, the best doctor you can find is a doctor that says, you're the expert of your body, I'm partnering with you. I'm bringing my expertise to help you live more optimally. I've had a few of those doctors in my life. I've had other doctors who've called me names and been very, very rude because I wouldn't do what they said. It's like, yeah, I'm not partnering with someone who's a bully. I want an expert who's actually going to be a team member with me. When our bodies are not working well, it's hard to do anything. It's hard to think straight. It's hard to sit here and do this. It's hard to get anything done. And you're meant to have this ebb and flow from in the morning, kind of the high of the more optimal, and it's less and less as you get to the evening. And you're meant to come to the evening and be ready to crash, which is hard when, like, I teach night classes till 10 o'clock and you crashed at 8. That's hard. I love my night classes because I kind of have this huge surge in the evening, and I can't stand mornings. But my wife has a new job, so I'm trying to learn and move kind of into morning, but I don't like it. She gets up too early now. But one of the questions here, I'm going to rush through this piece because I have a whole long training that I do on this. It's on YouTube. But someone asked, some young person, I love it, what do I do when I become a parent? Well, let me show you just a brief, quick overview. I believe we get this very, very wrong. We don't address these issues early enough. We believe our kids will get to it when they're ready. It's usually too late at that point. And so a lot of what I say and do is either I do or someone else does. A few years ago, California made a law that in kindergarten, all 15 genders have to be taught. And I'm like, where'd they get 15? Because Facebook is also in California, and there's 97 on Facebook. So they need to talk and get on the same page, because There's a lot being missed. The parents freak out. Oh my gosh, my kid's going to learn this in kindergarten. It's like, well, you have to have like 5 incomes to live there, but because I would say homeschool your kid. If you have to put your kid in the school, you need to teach them first. And the parents are like, oh, I can't do that. They're too young. So they're too young for you as a parent to teach them, but it's okay for some stranger at school to teach them. Do you hear yourself? I would be proud if my kid came home with a little piece of paper and said, I got in trouble because I told the teacher that they're crazy. There's only 2 genders. Because I taught them the truth at home. Because here's what I'm hearing. Kids go to school, they hear stuff. They around friends, youth group, anywhere, they hear stuff. And then mom and dad go, no, that's not true. Here's the truth. And they go, mom and dad, that was years ago. This is today. They tend to believe what they hear first. We need to be first, I believe, in actually planting the seeds of some of this stuff. Of that marriage is normal. That's a natural next step. Will everyone get married? No. Children is part of the future. Will everyone have children? No, but we want to prepare them. Vodi Bakum talks about the way he raises his sons and daughters. He says, I raise my sons to be husbands and fathers and my daughters to be mothers and wives first. Not because they all will, but we're missing that, I think. Instead, it's what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's all about career. And I'd say that's so secondary to who you partner with in life. So from birth, I call these micro conversations. We're having, there is no the talk. It's a million conversations from birth, from when they're little, 1, 2, 3. We start talking about basic anatomy, the correct body part vocabulary. Call a penis. Call it what it is. Stop making up names for it. Why? This is the most important part. If there's something that goes wrong, as in if there's trauma, if there's touch that's inappropriate, I want them to know the words to call with that part what it is so they can talk to me, especially when they're little, because they actually sometimes will at that age, and then they quickly learn that shame means I don't tell mom and dad, I don't tell anyone. Be sure not to stereotype what is boy or girl, but emphasize that you are a boy and girl. Can't believe I have to say that, but that's a truth now. That you are a boy because God made you a boy and you're biologically a boy. What are you going to do with that? You're a girl. What are you going to do with that? We need to help them nurture into the person that God made them into. And that you're loved by God and their family. Recognize that brothers, sisters, parents, friends, bodies are different. Help them see that we're all different. Talk about that carefully. Don't do it when people can hear. But have conversations about the differences. Begin teaching about appropriate touch. One of the things that I did with my kids when they were little is I would, especially Miley, my little girl there, is we had lots of babysitters, college students. And when the babysitter left, I would ask her questions about touch and about, changing panties or diaper. And I wasn't looking for her to tell me the truth. I was looking for her to change the way she answered. Because that's what told me there's something that had gone wrong potentially. And I would say in my classes at school, I was in Georgia, that I was doing this, so those girls knew I was doing this. And then I would do this. And why? Because we need to protect, yes, but I also want to prepare. So I'm doing both and not being silent. I've gone to homeschool families in the, not Salem area, but broader, walked into homes and the parents were like, I don't know what to do. I thought we moved out here to the middle of nowhere. I'm protecting my family, and now my son's molesting my daughters. Yeah, because you didn't teach them squat. How did they learn this? It's called biology. It's called curiosity. Oh, I want to scream sometimes. Because we need to teach about why we have the boundaries, why this is important. It's called dignity. Why we clothe ourselves right now is out of dignity. There are books like these that I really recommend. We had them with our kids, just kind of mixed in. The older versions are a lot prettier than those newer ones. This is a good one, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. Has a section in there that talks about the thinking brain and the feeling brain. And so one day I walked outside and Blaze was on the front lawn and he was kind of like this, and he's like 6 or 7, and I said, Blaze, what? He goes, Dad, my feeling brain says I want to go across the street to the park, but my thinking brain tells me I'm going to get in trouble. It's like, dude, here's your neuroscience degree. Like, it's that simple. Because it really is that simple. you have these parts of you that are battling. And that thinking brain and feeling brain picture is really, really helpful to see that you aren't going to get away from that. None of us are. But here's the most important stage, 6 to 10. And what's funny is we still haven't even hit the age most have had the talk, which is really where they actually educate the parents of what they know. But anyway, 6 to 10, more descriptive anatomy. We start talking more descriptively of body parts. And I remember at one point my daughter stood up in the bathtub and she's like, my bottom hurts. I was like, that's not your bottom. And my wife's like, I don't know what to call it. Because we don't know. What is it? It's not your vagina, that's inside. It's a vulva. We need to call it what it is. But we oftentimes have been taught not to, or we have these, nicknames and things like that. Call it what it is. Talk about the M word. What is the M word? Masturbation. Because at this age is where it usually gets found out, discovered, and I want to make sure they know they're not crazy, they're not broken, but hey, let's talk. Let's have a conversation, because they're not going to as a teenager more than likely. So I want to start this early. What is sexual identity? We want to talk through, and this is the world we live in. And yes, there are this and that, gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual, understand. That's so crazy to think about. We need to prepare them for when the uncle so-and-so comes over with his boyfriend, or because sometimes this is in our family, how do we help them not freak out or ask really awkward questions in dumb places? Dignity and modesty, that we cover out of dignity. And what are the family's boundaries when it comes to bathing suits, or becomes to lots of those kind of things? We want to teach them about clothing and why we cover, why this is actually a good thing. And it's not if you got it, flaunt it world like our world actually does. We need to prepare her for periods and him for wet dreams, what is going to happen with your body. Talk about it ahead of time. Your sons and daughters need to understand what a period is. Daughters, obviously, more so. I've talked to too many young ladies, I can't believe I'm having these conversations, who had no idea and thought they were dying when they got their period because no one had talked to her. No. We need to have those conversations. That means in the church, if we find a young lady who we know is in a situation where she's going to be taught some of these things, we need to develop that friendship and permission and do this, maybe not one-on-one, like stay in groups, if you will, but be able to help mentor. And please do that so that I'm not having to do that. Would be really nice, because this is very awkward sometimes. But my favorite is when I get emails from like college girls and they go, I finally got a tampon in. Why are you telling me this? Because they're struggling with vaginismus, and we've talked about this and we've dealt with this, and then but I sometimes I'm like, Kelly, look at this email. She's like, oh my gosh, what do you do for a living? Is nuts. I'm like, yes, it is. This is where we talk about sexual reproduction more graphically. Do they know what sex is? Not necessarily. We were sitting at the table one time, and the older boys were talking, and all of a sudden Miley was like, sex? Penis? Vagina? No! And we busted out laughing, and it's normal. It's not this, I was at a friend's house and I discovered this and I'm now full of shame. So much is full of shame. The first time that often many guys and girls find pornography, filled with shame. No, nudity is beautiful, but I got to learn that it has a place and a context. So I don't want shame. I want us to see, okay, boundary, because this is not good for me. This is not healthy for me. If you think of the age of development, this is wild. Personality is set in stone by age 7. So basically, you have till they're 7. No, actually, you know what changes their personality after 7? Trauma. Drama with you, drama with friends, drama just in life. Capital T traumas. Oh, careful what you pray for your kids sometimes, because we don't want that. But by 7, that means we have got to check in early, and we got to do this early, not wait till they're 13, 14 to have some of these conversations. Have a theology for our family, for a boyfriend, girlfriend. When do we date? Our rule is your junior, senior year of college. That's when you start dating.
Amen.
Yeah. And it's more of a facetiously said in the sense of don't think you have to. My son is a freshman in college, and he dated someone the first semester. Now he's dating someone else the second semester, and it's like, this is a whole new world for him. But what's cool is even that first girl, he's already learning certain boundaries. Like he took her out camping one night. She stayed in the tent. He slept in a hammock. And I'm like, did you really? Did you really? But don't put her in that situation ever again. And now he's like, yeah, I don't ever want to put someone I care about in that position again. He's learning. So what is the rules? If you're dating as a teenager, expect to be married or a baby in 2 years or less. That's just natural. If we're making out and we're kissing, you're just revving up the motors for more. So don't play the game. I highly recommend don't play that game if you're in high school. As you're getting close to the end of high school, like our middle son has a girl he's been interested in, and now that's kind of over, which is great, but it's like I've told him, you're 16, that means I expect you married by 18 or 19. And then he's like, but I want to go to college. I'm like, you got choices to make. As in getting married at 18 or 19 is great. Everyone's got a different plan. But if you want that, then okay, this needs to maybe stay off the table for a little while. So again, every family's got to have a different rule here. You plant the seed when they are 6 to 10, not, oh, by the way, to my 13-year-old, the rule is, yeah, we don't, they look at mom and dad and go, you're crazy. Because the world has influenced them more than you are. So we plant that seed. What it is to me to be a friend. Pornography. Talk about trauma and abuse. That they are under authority. We help them understand that everywhere they go, they're under someone's authority. Their teachers, the pastor, police officers. It's a really important piece of the puzzle. And then the one that we actually would call the talk. Sorry, it's too late. It's not really ever too late. It's a different conversation. At this stage, what I tell parents is, you're probably not going to have a talk. It's going to be more of a lecture, a mini lecture, but it's still seeds planted. If you speak to them about what you believe and about truth, and they say nothing, or they grunt, which is what some of them do, they still heard. You still planted a seed. So don't be silent. Don't say, oh, I failed, or I give up. No. We invest in these kids' lives. There's that is a son with long hair. But then my oldest, Alex. This is where we're diving into more of the identity. It's so much more than sexual. That you're fearfully and wonderfully made. That as a believer, your body is a temple. Every other sin you commit is outside your body. But the sexual is actually has a different space. We need to really understand that there's a different consequence there. That you are not a mistake, not trapped in the wrong body, but you have a unique personality. Especially to those boys that are not as like others. I struggled with this for a few decades. It was really hard to know. It's like, I'm not like other boys, so what's wrong with me? Very normal question to ask. Because we tend to compare. Understanding against sexual reproduction, refrain from sexual immorality. What are your idols? Who influences you? The musicians, the actors, the online personalities, the influencers. Actually, this matters big time. What is dating, courting? We're further defining it at this point. Again, pornography, managing social media. So these are the things that we're unpacking at this point, but we've planted seeds earlier that 6 or 7 to 10 is a critical stage. How are they treating others? What does the Bible say? Not mom and dad or social media. Help direct them to Scripture to answer questions. Deepening their identity. Are you kind, respectful? What's your work ethic? How do you love our brothers and sisters, our friends that are LGBTQIA+, that are struggling, that are searching, that are staunch advocates for the whole extreme? How do we love them? How do we walk alongside them? And be aware of decisions that cannot be unmade. So this is that stuff that you want to actually kind of have in your back pocket. This is what I wrote the book for parents and a book for teenagers on, because to me this is really important. Maintain integrity of your convictions and what God is saying. So then there's that. We'll just keep going. Addictions. Someone asked, what are the stats on how women use porn, or how many women use porn? And the stats is 40%. This is becoming normal. And what scares me to death for you ladies is if you stumble onto it, the curiosity might start, but it becomes oh, so this is what these guys want. No one healthy wants any of that. Do not use this as your teacher. Because the guys that are using it as their teacher is what's creating these monsters that are abusive and use women. Because that's what pornography is. It's a taking of, it's void of intimacy. The porn addiction is 11% of men and 3% of women. I think those numbers are actually very low because the word of addiction is a problem. How do you define addiction? What's really ruining my life or preventing me from going to work or preventing me from... So it's probably way higher than that. The fact is it's millions of people. This is just normal. What are the positives of social media? How to use social media in a good way? I love social media. I think it's a great tool. But it's actually become something where if you find yourself even for 5 minutes just scrolling, stop it. Lock your phone in a safe if you have to. It does not need to control you in terms of killing time. Find a different hobby, if you will. But it's become a normal hobby where we just escape. Reels have become a hobby, an escape. If you don't have a phone, young people, your parents love you more than you realize. They're not a need. But it feels like it is because everyone else has one. So part of what Anxious Generation was saying was, what if we actually had it where no one had them till 16 or 18? That would be beautiful, glorious. May we head in that direction. But I know for our oldest, we gave him one at 12 because he was traveling to another state. And it was the dumbest decision we ever made. He stopped reading. He got meaner at the dinner table. It was not a good thing. And it was even different back then. So he only got social media at 18. But social media has its positives. When I post something on social media, some of the first people who respond or say something, friends that I grew up with in Chile, in South America, that I haven't seen since 1992. It's amazing to be able to stay connected because of some of this stuff. There's some beautiful positives to it. But when it has the amount of negatives, like suicidality of women, girls, is higher because of comparison, because of Instagram, I'm sorry, it's better to not have it. And so some people need to see the wisdom is for me not to have this because it's actually a bad thing for me. Either killing time or my comparison factor. Man, look at that person's life. This isn't fair. I hate my life. And we spiral, which is really, really a scary reality. How to stay together as a married couple and support your kids. One of my biggest work, what I spend a lot of time counseling is with couples. Because to me, one of the best gifts you can give your kids is your husband or your wife's first over the kids. You're an example. And honestly, there is no room to be fighting the way I see some couples fighting. You're not that immature. Holy smokes, grow up. Why do we do that? Oftentimes we don't have the skills and we fight different. Great, we need to learn new skills. I love doing that. I love leaning into that, but it impacts you. The question here, how does parents' marital struggle change the kids' sexual thoughts, desires, and mental health? I think there's a direct correlation. That when there's high stress, back to that dopamine, serotonin game in our brain, it spirals me to escape. And what's sad is the way guys and girls escape is different. And so the way we critique ourselves, I think guys are just checking out. Because I can't fix mom and dad, so I just go to my online world. That's easy. I would rather you join the Marines or do something with your life. Not because I think the Marines are great, but it's like order, discipline, achieve something great can change you. Why? Again, it's purpose. So how you lean into if you love sports, if you lean into that sport and do it with excellence. If you play an instrument, play that instrument with excellence. Lean into those kind of things are really, really powerful. How do I respond to a same-sex proposition? No, but thank you, I'm flattered. Yeah, actually, it's interesting how that's coming up a lot. Someone's now propositioned me. Be flattered, but walk away. Boundary. That's a tough one, because what's crazy is what happens when someone actually says they like me, even if it's same sex. I am kind of flattered a little bit, maybe. What's scarier, and the part that changes who I am, is when there's actually touch involved. When you start getting closer and closer and closer. And there's touch. What does touch do? It bonds me to you. I see this a lot with girls, where one is actually totally oblivious and one is, I would call, a perpetrator. She is now moving in on, and that normal touch that girls tend to have is now crossed the line in this one person's mind. Careful with that. Should you not do that at all? No, but careful with that. Touch binds us, touch. But it also messes with what's real. I was talking to this one young lady who, she was in a lesbian relationship. She came to me, and she just thought I was going to rake her over the coals. And I'm like, tell me about it. It's like, what? Like, tell me, how was it? And she's just like, is this a trap? It's like, no. Was she safe? Yeah. Was it amazing to be close to her? Yeah. Was it amazing to be like wrapped in her arms and to feel like you wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world? Yeah. Why? Because you trusted her. Great. Then what are you here for? I don't understand. She's like, well, it's wrong. I'm like, says who? Because now I'm baiting her. And it's like, because you know there's something that you're designed for, as in this is meant to be male, female, and this is, well, comfortable. Because you've deemed her safe. And you want better. You want healthy. You want holy. It's so funny, I watched her counsel herself out of it. She didn't need someone to go, shame on you, you're bad. No, she's not. She's actually, if someone touches you and you deem them safe, then if they go further and further and further, of course it was great. So that's then again, if you get sexual with someone, of course, because if you deem them safe, you like that, now you're confused, guy or girl. So what I would want to say for any of those, of course you're confused. That's why we go back to Scripture. I don't use my emotions to define myself, I use Scripture. And I go, okay, whoa, I need a reorienting here of just direction. I look at Scripture, oh, it's this way, okay. Now I've got my bearing. And I would say we all need that often. Watch the news, you need it a lot more often because it throws you off. What if my best friend who has been sexually abused or assaulted or raped? This is again where we've got to pull other people in. Do not carry a secret. And oftentimes they ask you to keep the secret. Please talk to someone. Don't carry that because it will weigh on you. You can't sleep, you can't function. Your mental health will be impacted. What should I say to my teenage friends who are girls if they say they are having a lot of attraction to a guy who is in their late 20s to 50s? It's a big range, yeah. And so the other question there is, how much of an age difference is okay for attraction, marriage, or dating? I bet you if we asked the adults here, they would actually have a range of answers, actually. Because I think we all have an opinion of what we think is normal or healthy. But one of the ways that I picture it is, I've gone to the nursing home and dealt with the guy who's dying, whose wife is running circles around him because she's 20 or 30 years younger. It's kind of cool to grow old together. Not where one grew old a long time ago. And so just think about that. But the truth is you can fall in love with almost anyone, guy or girl. Spend time with them and turn it into something more. So careful with that. So if they don't have the same values than you, run. Literally get up and run. There are certain questions to ask. I have a whole other seminar thing I do on that. To know in the first 2 or 3 dates, whether someone is worth a fourth date or a third date. Do not get attached to someone if they are someone who believes very different than you, if they want something very different than you. You need to really have a way to narrow down who you would spend that time with. Because it is, I talked to one young lady, 21, dating a 41-year-old. Parents got involved. Parents were like, help! And what she was doing is she went to Oregon State, and she's like, I look around at the guys around me, and I'm like, I don't want anything to do with any of these guys. They're all addicted to porn. They're all a mess. So she's like, I went to someone who wouldn't be. And I'm like, a 41-year-old single guy. Yeah. So luckily that ended, and I'm glad, but it's scary to think about. I understood her heart. And she found a guy, she's like, I trust him. Great. And so we talked through like aging in his life and his ambition, which was none, and lots of other measuring sticks. And what I was looking for was, what is the right lever I can pull to help her see? But could I make her not be attracted to him? No. So again, that's why I say attraction is not the best data. Oftentimes it's bad data. I want more than that. Again, where's your heart? Who are you? Who do you want to be? Where do you want to go is more important. One of the parents said this. We have a female teacher who goes by, I don't know what that is, Mix. Instead of Mr. or Mrs. As a Christian student in a class, do I avoid calling her by her title? If you go to Sean McDowell, has a really good book called In the Stalemate. He wrote it with Tim, can't remember the last guy's name. At the end of the book, and there's some YouTube videos where they have this debate about pronouns and about using these terms, and they both disagree. They're both professors at Biola. And this isn't simple. This isn't easy. I have strong opinions about what I believe about this, and I lead a support group of parents that we don't all agree. As in, I don't think it's that simple. When there is more of a relationship, I think we can have more of a boundary and say no. And I think there's times and a place, in certain places even of authority, where we may have less and where we may actually need to comply because of the situation, because of the lack of relationship. So to me, so would I avoid? 100% yes. But here's my I guess, test, if you will. Remember this kid? If you ever saw the news about this young man? He wore the shirt to school and got in trouble, it ended up a big lawsuit, and it states a very simple thing. There are only two genders. What is the truth? And if you're a girl and you're saying you're a boy, that is not true. Why is this important to me? What I have seen from detransitioners, two stories come from that. They're now here, and they're like, I cannot believe I lived that delusion. And they really do. They're usually overwhelmed. And they go, again, two options. Mom and Dad, how did you go along with that insanity of mine and call me what you called me because I said so and follow me? I'm done with you. Or, thank you, Mom and Dad, for always sticking to the truth and loving me anyway, but sticking to the truth. Which one do I want to be? I'm done right there. I want to be the parent that stuck to the truth, even if I don't see you maybe come to Christ till after I'm dead and gone. Because the goal is for them to come to Christ, not for us to have a great life together. I think a lot of parents are more focused on let's have Christmases together and just act like this isn't really real. Instead of, no, I want to love you. And loving you is telling you the truth. So this is this is simple, I know, but it's not in the court system. They're confused. Watch the What is a Woman documentary. It's very enlightening. Very, very good. Questions about that? Thoughts? Reactions? This one's a tough one. From adult perspective, we do when we see another Christian parent not willing to see sexual integrity issues in their child. This has happened in the past. and he now lives a homosexual lifestyle, and the parents wish someone would have tried to bring it to light to them. How can we lovingly address blind spots? Simple answer is I don't think you can sometimes. I think we should, but I think a lot of us, even if you were to say it point blank, they would not hear, they would not listen, they would not want to believe they will believe whatever they want to believe. So should we err on the side of attempting to address it? Yes, but I think a lot of times they won't listen. So may we have that relationship? I think a lot of it depends on that relationship, how close I am. Do I have permission to kind of speak into their life? But yeah, I think the reality ends up being that it's this second one is finally when they come out of the closets, when all of a sudden it's like, why didn't I know? Why didn't I see? Because most of us don't want to see the bad in our kids or the negative or the unhealthy or the even sinful. So we miss so much. So that's a important one. I mentioned this one in the beginning. A group of my friends are joking, pretending, mocking homosexuality or joking in gay ways, sometimes pointedly from someone they know that could have struggles. Do I ignore this? How do I stop it? I'd say no, it's not a joke. We don't play around with this anymore. We're not trans, we're not gay, we're not any of this stuff. I'm sorry, it's not funny anymore. Actually, never really was, but that's a hard no if I hear my kids even say the word gay. I jump like crazy over them. Don't even talk that way. Because when I was a kid, that was normal conversation. It's not okay now. Because too many of those we love, friends, really are struggling. And I want to be a hope for them for conversation, not a hindrance, because I was the one joking around. What if I'm the one struggling with same-sex attraction? How can I be comfortable to share my struggles and not be afraid of being mocked or shunned? You might be mocked or shunned. As in, find safe people, healthy people to talk to. Don't think you can trust just anyone. That's why this group exists. Period. That's why this evening is happening and will continue to happen. Because most of the ones here, I don't know everyone, are here because they want to be that healthy person, safe person to invest in your life. Preston Sprinkle said this: we need to create safe spaces where young people can open up, be heard, receive godly wisdom, and learn about God's expansive vision for what it means to be male and female. And we, especially the adults here, or any of the even older teens to younger teens, we're here to help encourage that, help you wrestle, help you think, help you feel, help you deal with weird feelings, weird desires, weird stuff going on, because you're not supposed to do this alone at all. So if you're struggling, please, do you need to get up here and share your story? No. That is not, I think a lot is shared in testimony time that shouldn't be shared, because now I regret that I shared it. And I can't take it back. And I have a certain expectation that when I shared it, something was going to be done and they don't do it. So now I spiral. As in, once you finally do share it with others, I hope you have zero expectation in terms of what they do with it. In terms of protecting your heart, because you're in a good place. Had a student at Corbin years ago. He shared about his sexual abuse in chapel. And I told him, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I was adamant. You are not ready. This is insane. He got up there and shared his story. He spent a year spiraling. His fiance came to me during the middle of that and was like, what do I do? Do I marry him or not? Like, what is up with him? Because he had an expectation that after he shared, all these friends are going to come and do this and do that. And no, people didn't know what to do or how to respond. So they shy away. They're afraid of these subjects. And he wasn't okay. He doubted his faith, about left the ministry. They did marry. They have kids now. They're in ministry. It's worked out well, but don't think you're supposed to share with everyone. Find a couple that you can trust, a few that you can trust, because you're not meant to do this alone. And by the way, if your parents are here, it may not be them. Again, that's why I do Scouts. I want to be someone that's actually walking alongside the other guys, and I am very proud of the other dads that are there for my son. My oldest son, when he would have a problem, he'd literally get in his car and drive off. We wouldn't even know what he's doing, to go to his youth leader's house. And he'd go there at 2 or 3 a.m. He's newly married, and just sit there and vent and say stuff that we have no idea what he shared or did, because he trusted Forrest. And I've told Forrest over and over, thank you for loving our son. Thank you for loving our son. Thank you for loving our son. Kind of wish I knew what y'all talked about, but thank you for loving our son. We're partnering here with you because we care about you. So, and that I think is it. We got through all of them. Good questions. Any other final questions or thoughts or reactions? Or there's so much directions we could go, but these are really thoughtful, good questions.
Maybe just the thought from you as an adult that all this stuff eventually gets resolved when you're an adult, that most of us had really weird things happen when we were kids, all the weird stuff that goes in your head. Most of us say, my husband and I say all the time, I'm sure glad I'm not 13. I would never go back. I would never want to be 15 again.
Yeah.
I would never want to be 12 again. Most of us as adults think that all the time. I would sure never want to be 13 again. It's what you do as a 13 and 15-year-old. It's what your brain does. It's what you are like. It is the way God made us. You're not going to be like that forever. You're only like that.
Crazy?
You're only like that as you're growing up. I mean, we were all like that, and none of us ever want to go back there and be there.
I tell my wife that my teenagers, we need to sit at their feet and go,
Yeah.
let me learn from you, because you know it all as teenagers. That's actually normal, by the way, to think that, to feel that. It may not all resolve, by the way, as an adult, though. So careful with that expectation. Think of some of the attraction stuff. That may not. What are you trying to fix? Careful with that. Some people marry thinking that's going to fix me. No, it actually makes things really a lot worse if you're not in a good place. So, but yes, a lot of the angst. You know what's going to be the best medicine today as a teenager? It's filling your life with good things. That's not online. That's not on your phone. It's with people. So the more that you do with friends, the more that you do as a group, small groups really. It's that, get it small and healthy and good, but also work. The other piece is work. If you can find a place to invest in, people, neighbor, church. As an adult, my 20s were a mess. I wasn't doing well. That wasn't, because I was still trying to figure out America, English, girls are scary, and I'm trying to go the route of a counselor, and why would God have me be a marriage counselor and I'm single? This is not okay. And then to see when we met online, by the way, so that does work. Equallyyoked.com, so it's cheesy as can be. And she emailed me first, so she made the first move, just FYI also. And her brother met his wife on eHarmony, so I thought all that was just crazy, and a lot of it is.
My parents met on eHarmony.
Yay, cool, love that. That's neat. Yep. So it can work. Yeah, we're at almost 22 years. Yay. So just getting started.
48 years.
Love it.
But you didn't
Yep.
meet on eHarmony, did you?
E what?
Package bigger.
Yeah, that's another thing too. If those, especially you young people, ask these others here their story of how they met. Learn more and more people's stories, because it changes you. Everyone has a different story, and different hiccups and different challenges. I think that's really important. We used to be a whole world of storytelling that has gotten lost. That most of us couldn't tell our grandparents' love story because we never heard it. It's sad to think of what's been lost because of the lack of the verbal sharing, because of our screens really and other distractions. But yeah. No questions? Know that anything you need, let me know. If you have other stuff you have questions about, even just personally, let me know. Go to an adult. Would be honored to talk. And then thanks for having me, and it's been an honor. Yes. Thank you.